Today's topic is Sefirah, the Kabbalistic growth through the Omer. Now, when you look in your Sidurim, when it comes to Sefirah HaOmer, the counting of the Omer, besides just listing the day, the English doesn't have it, but we have all these Sefirah, Chesed of Chesed, Gvura of Chesed, Malchut of Netzach, Yesod of Hod, Chesed of Malchut, Malchut of Malchut. There's a whole listing in the Sidur that it gives us of what is the unique characteristic of that day. So let's try to get a basic understanding in what is going on with that. So Sefirah, we've mentioned, of course, is primarily the count until Shavuot. And we count the days to make sure that each day counts. So clearly there is this progression that goes on. Also, we mentioned, we spent time on it, here on Shabbos we spent time on the death of Rabbi Akiva's Talmidim, and therefore the aspects of Avelut, of mourning, that also become combined with these days of Sefirah HaOmer, these days of the counting of the Omer. So clearly this is a time for spiritual growth and focusing on spiritual growth and character refinement. But in addition to just a general idea that this is the time to do it, there is a framework that is comprised in the Sefirah HaOmer. If there are 49 days, that is not coincidental. Nothing in Judaism is just coincidental. There is a message there, there is a teaching there, and there is a treasure there, a method there through which one can utilize that. So the first source is from Rabbi Yaakov Haber. Mankind was created, as the Torah says, the Pasuk says, B'Tselem Elokim, in the image of God. Now, of course, God does not have any corporeality. Right? One of the very fundamental basics of Judaism rejects any notion of God ever having any physical image, any corporeality. So it isn't our physical image, but rather our character that has godly potential. The Sefirot, I'm sure we've all heard the term the Sefirot, the 10 Sefirot, right? What are they? They are a mystical revelation of God's character, so to speak. And I would just add on, a mystical revelation of what God decided to reveal to us about Himself. Right? Any understanding, any knowledge that we have of God, that's not what God is. What God is so far beyond the limits of our comprehension. But that is what God decided to share with us. The Sefirot represent our finite understanding of the infinite. And again, I would add on the caveat of the part of the infinite that God chose to share with us, and it's our finite understanding of that component of the infinite. There are 10 Sefirot with which God created and interacts with the world. They are Chachma, Bina, Da'at, wisdom, understanding, knowledge, and that's where the Lubavitcher Hasidim get their acronym from. Chachma, Bina, Da'at, the first letter spells out Chabad. Chesed, Gevura, Tiferet, Netzach, Hod, Yesod, right, which is the Chagat Nehi, and we're going to explain what each of these are. And lastly, Malchut. These 10 Sefirot are divided into two categories. The 3 upper Sefirot of Chachma, Bina, and Da'at, and the lower 7. and we often see a split up of 3 and 7. The Makot, the plagues on Egypt, we have 7 of those in the parsha of Va'era, and we have 3 of those in the parsha of Bo. Okay, very often we have split ups of 7 and 3. When we wrap the tefillin, there are 7 wrappings that go around the arm, and then there are 3 wrappings that go around the finger. Some also have a custom to have 3 wrappings in the upper arm. Ashkenazim typically don't. Right? We start there that we just get, but we have 7, and then we have 3. Some have 7. How do you do 3 up there?
I don't know if it's Ashkenazi per se or Sephardic, but I do the 3, the shin on top.
Okay.
Right, it forms a shin.
Shin
Right.
dalet and yud, shin dalet and yud.
Yeah.
On the bottom.
So those that do 3, everyone does 7 and does 3 around the fingers, right? 7 there. Some do 3 over there also. So we have this recurring theme of 3 and 7. Now, a person might want to challenge me and say, but it's first 3 and then 7, right? And by the plagues, there it's first 7 in the parsha of Va'era, followed by 3 in Bo. But there's a very fascinating explanation that's given that the 10 plagues were a rolling back of the 10 utterances. We say there were 10 utterances, 10 Vayomers and Bereshit, the 10 utterances through which God created the world. And with each utterance, God faded a little further into the background, concealed himself a little bit more. And the plagues was a step-by-step unpeeling of that and getting back to the source. So therefore we work with the bottom 7 and then get to the first 3. But for what we need to know, these 10 Sefirot are divided into 2 categories. The 3 upper Sefirot of Chachma, Bina, and Da'at, and the lower 7. It is the lower 7 Sefirot that we focus on during the 7 weeks of Sfirat HaOmer. And we'll see how this breaks down. Our knowledge of these 7 Sefirot have their source in Tanakh. Our sages have explained the following words from Divrei Hayamim. They indicate these Sefirot, and we say this as part of our davening. The pasuk says in Divrei Hayamim, L'cha Hashem, to you Hashem is Ha-Gidula, the greatness. Now, when we speak about in Shemona Esrei, and we say Hakel HaGadol HaGibor VaHanorah, Gadol, great, refers to the midah of Chesed. So greatness is Chesed. HaGevura, VaHaTiferet, VaHaNetzach, VaHahod. To you, Hashem, is greatness, strength. Chesed is greatness, Chesed. Strength, Gevura. Splendor, Tiferet. Netzach, eternity. Glory, that's Hod. Okay, so these are, paraphrasing, Gedula, which is Chesed, Gevura, Tiferet, Netzach, VaHod. Those 5 are clear. Kichol, Bashamayim, Uva Aretz. Right? All that is in the heavens and the earth, that is, refers to Yesod, the 9th one. V'mitnasei l'chol rosh. L'cha Hashem hamam, l'cha you Hashem is the kingdom. And you are elevated above everyone. Mamlacha, that is Malchut. So this pasuk, in order, goes through the 7 lower Sefirot of the 10 Sefirot.
Rabbi?
Yes.
I've never seen the word chesed translated as great. I've always seen it understood as translated as loving kindness.
Yes.
So
But-
here it's translated as great?
Yes. We're saying that greatness is a reference to Chesed. The Vilna Gaon says that in the Amidah, we say Akel HaGadol HaGibor VaHanorah. When we say Gadol, we are referring to God's Midah of chesed, of kindness. That is the gedula. Okay. So, let's go to source number 3. Again, Rabbi Yaakov Haber in his book Sefiros. For as much as the Sefirot reveal about God himself, they also hold the key to understanding what it means to have been created in God's image. Again, there's no physicality. So God's image are God's ways. God's ways are beyond us, except that which God decides to share with us. And that is via these Sefirot. And just as we must apply a unified understanding to the personality of God, so to speak, we must strive to round out our own personality with a lesson of each Sefirah. So the Sefirot give us a guide as to how we should be thinking, feeling, and acting. Thinking, resolving to do, and actually putting it into action. Therefore, the keys to our opening, maintaining, and repairing our relationship with God are bound up in understanding these Sefirot. Our goal, therefore, during these 49 days is to examine how each of the Sefirot affects our connection to God, our relationship with each other, and probably most fundamentally important, our understanding of ourselves. Okay? Right? When we understand ourselves, that's when we're able to build on that in terms of a healthy relationship with others, whether it's with other human beings or whether it is with our Creator.
Rabbi, though, wouldn't it, since it's what God revealed,
Correct?
there's a certain limit to what
Yes.
is revealed.
Yes.
And so we can go only so far
Correct.
in this, correct?
Correct.
Yeah.
We can go only so far. At the same time, right, we are supposed to say every day, Matai yagiu ma'asai l'masei avotai. When will my actions reach the actions of our forefathers, the patriarchs, the matriarchs? Right? So, right, we also have incredible potential.
Yeah.
Every person has. And the question is, how much of that do we resolve to
And how much
utilize?
does God allow us to reveal?
Well, I'm saying, within how much God allows us, there is incredible
Okay.
possibilities. So,
Which we may never reach.
yeah.
So
At least try.
isn't that also why they seem to be opposites together, like kindness and...
Yes. So we're gonna work through that. That's a good point.
And also I wanted to say that the Chabad Siddur has it in English, what is each...
Interesting. Okay. So finishing off source number 3, our goal, therefore, during these 49 days is to examine how each of the Sefirot affects our connection to God, relate with each other, and understanding of ourselves. So now we already have a very different understanding in the 7 weeks of preparation that we have going from Pesach until Shavuot. If there are 7 of these Sefirot, 7 of these Midot, 7 of these attributes, and we have 7 weeks, then we have a week to work on each of them. Each week, of course, has 7 days. So therefore, each one is going to have 7 components in it. Okay? I would imagine that in a Kabbalistic sense, they discuss that the 7 days of the week also are aligned with these 7, the Zayin Tachtonot they're referred to, the lower 7 of the Sefirah. That's why Shabbos is called Shabbat, right? The Sfardim, Nusach Ashkenaz by Bowie Kala, right? But doesn't say this, but in Nusach Sfard, right? Bowie Kala Shabbat Malkata. right? And the last of the Sefirot is Malchut.
And
So
it
it's
comes out
not
on
just the
Shabbat this year.
49 days per se.
It comes out on Shabbat this year.
Yes, yes, but I'm saying every Shabbat itself is referred to as Shabbat Malkata, right? We have a Malava Malka to escort the queen afterwards, right?
Starting Sunday being the first Sefirah all the way to Shabbat, which becomes the Malchut. Chesed, Gevurah, Tiferet, Netzachot,
But it
Yisod,
doesn't always
and
come
Malchut
out.
is Shabbat.
No, we're saying
Every
every
day
week goes through it, besides Sefirah.
Besides
Oh, okay.
Sefirot,
Besides Sefirah,
yes.
Okay.
right? The Shabbos itself is referred to Shabbat Malkata,
Oh, okay.
and each day is
It corresponds to a Sefirah.
yeah.
Right.
So
of the-
Sunday is always Chesed?
that's what it is.
Okay.
That's what it would be. Okay. Rav Gedalia Shur writes as follows: Yimei HaSfira Huzman Letikun HaMidot. The days of Sfira, counting the Omer, are days to fix, to correct, to rectify one's midot, character traits. Shavua Rishona, the first week, L'takein Midat HaChesed. That is the Midat Chesed. L'takein Ha'ava, that the love that we feel, Shihiyeh Kara'ui, that it should be proper. Ava LaHashem Yiparach, love to Hashem. Va'avat Chaverim, and love to others. Shavua Shniya, Midat Gevurah. The second week is the midah, the attribute of strength. L'takein Midat Hayira, right? To fix, to work on this attribute of the fear of Hashem. V'chein kol ha-shavuot. And so too for all of the weeks.
Is Gevurah also associated with Din?
Sorry?
Is Gevurah also
Yes.
associated with Din?
Yes. Okay. And each day of each week has its place within the framework. So the first week in the Sidur over here, the first week it's all Chesed. But we'll start with Chesed of Chesed, and then second day is Gevurah of Chesed, and then Tiferet of Chesed, Netzach of Chesed, Hod of Chesed, Yisod of Chesed. The seventh day is Malchut of Chesed, and then we start with Gevurah. And we'll have, so we have one, right? And then smaller number 1 through 7. And then we have 2, Gevurah, 1 through 7, right? And then we have, etc., right?
Sefirah is
Chesed,
inclusive
Tiferet,
of all.
right. So each one has its subdivision of each of the 7. Yes, Reb Shlomo.
I don't say it, so I can't comment on it. But there's a tefillah, that talks about each day, the various gurus.
Well, at the end of the Sfirat HaOmer, we'll come to the end, we'll actually quote part of it.
Oh, okay.
Okay. So let's go through a bit of a primer explanation of what these 7 are. Okay? So that's the second page of the source sheet that you have. Chesed, loving kindness, is the attribute which diffuses benevolence to all without limit. That's why Chesed is called Gadol. It's just big. It just goes beyond. It's not contained within any parameters. Chesed, unabated Chesed, that just goes and goes and goes to all without limit. Creation itself is an act of Chesed. Olam Chesed Yibaneh, the pasuk says. The world was created with Chesed. The attribute of Chesed is also called greatness, Gedulah, as we said. For life issues from him to an unlimited number of worlds and creatures. Right? I mean, just our planet, which is the physical world as we know it, is just so bursting, so awash with so many different life forms that it's mind-boggling. Just the bursting, the explosion of life that exists here. Right? And I'm always struck by the desire for life. How in a crack in the asphalt, the little grass is going to work its way through. right? In the most unforgiving of terrains, how there is this want for life that expresses itself, right, on every level of the biological development that is around us, right? So life issues from him to an unlimited number of worlds and creatures.
What does that mean, worlds?
Worlds can mean different. There's the physical world that we are in, and there's also the spiritual worlds that are all around us that our physical eyes are not able to perceive, right? It might even mean life elsewhere. Could mean life elsewhere, right? If we would discover extraterrestrial life, that will not be an issue, a theological issue for us. The Medrashim speak about life elsewhere. Yeah. If so,
Hashem can create
So,
anything.
yeah.
Whatever
Yeah,
happened,
that won't
happened.
affect my tefillin the next morning and my Kriyat Shema that night or anything else. Like, why would it shock me if God's creation went beyond that which we know of today? You know, I mean, it's constantly going beyond that which you know of today on this planet. We're always understanding more about this world, and you know, there are places under the ocean that we're first now starting to explore and see new types of life. You know, so send it beyond. That doesn't. It won't affect me. It won't affect us. It's not. It's a non-issue. As we learn from Abraham, it is the nature of the benevolent to do goodness. Right? The derech of the Tov is to be meitiv. In Avraham, who embodies chesed, we see the paradigm of endless loving kindness. Right? He had to be reined in a little bit. By who? Think Ezer Kenegdo?
Sarah.
By Sarah. Right? When it came to Yishmael, he wanted to keep showing chesed, and Hashem told Avraham, whatever Sarah tells you, Shema bikola, listen to her voice. Right? I always kid around with grooms and brides that if God tells you to listen to your wife, then you have to. Otherwise, no. Right? But so Sarah, right? Avraham was unbounded. His tent was open on all sides, and he extended the warmest hospitality to all. That is chesed. But number 2, though it's not numbered, where chesed is boundless, gevura is the attribute of restraint. It has the power and ability to limit and contract. In the act of creation, gevura conceals from the created beings the activating force within them. As we mentioned before, the ten mamarot that the world was created, right? So that then brought in, right? That concealed God. Each step concealed God further. So Gevurah conceals from the created beings the activating force within them. This enables them to exist as tangible entities instead of being utterly nullified within their source. I need to see myself as someone who is independent, and I make my own choices. Sometimes good, sometimes not quite as good. But that's what gives me the free will. That's what gives me that aspect of godliness. But if I did not sense there was not a concealment of the activating force within me, so then I am nullified before God. The patriarch Isaac Yitzchak is paralleled with Gevurah due to the dominance of this Sefirah within him. He restrained his emotions magnificently at the Akedah, the binding of Isaac. Right? We call it Akedat Yitzchak, but really, right, it was. Why do we view that as the great challenge Right? It's called Yitzchak, but wasn't it really Avram's challenge more than Yitzchak's? Yitzchak played a passive role. Well, yes, sometimes choosing to play a passive role and to restrain oneself. Ezehu Gibor HaKovesh et Yitzro. Tov Erech Hapayim Mi locate ear. The pasuk, I forget the exact pasuk. Right? Great is the person who can control himself than one who will show that domination over others. That is the greatest gevura. So gevura comes to limit. Gevura, as you said, Jan, is also called law. And judgment, din. Judgment demands that chesed be distributed justly in proportion to the recipient's merit and not in a boundless, gratuitous fashion. Right? When you have unbridled growth, in a biological sense, what do we call that?
Cancer.
Cancer. That's cancer. Unbridled growth. So therefore there needs to be this gevura. There needs to be, we call that tough love. Sometimes needs to be administered, which means that it can't just be constant giving in every situation for every person. There are times that the real way to help that person is by applying restraints, right? Measuring that. Without gevura, chesed would not have the boundaries needed in order for creation to exist. In terms of humanity, if chesed was dominant, the earth would be full of sinners, since love would cover all iniquity. Right? There's no responsibility. There's just free love, love, love. Conversely, if gevura was dominant, no person could withstand the scrutiny of judgment. Both chesed and gevura operate successfully through a mediating faculty. Right? When they draw these Kabbalistic depictions of these 10 Sefirot, so you have the 2 and then the 3rd. That's where they emerge. You have the top 3. You have Chabad, Chachma, Bina, Dat. Chesed, Gevura, Tiferet. Netzach, Hod, Yesod. And then Malchut. So it's these 2, and then you have the 3rd. There's always the 2, and the 3rd is like that mediating factor, mediating faculty, as he calls it. And that is, in this case, the Sefirah of Tiferet. Tiferet blends Chesed and Gevura with harmonious and beautiful results. That was the Midah of Yaakov, of Jacob. And Yaakov is referred to as Bechir Ha'avot, the chosen one of the patriarchs, in terms of the blending of those 2 midot of his father and grandfather. His grandfather's Chesed and his father's Gevura. He is Tiferet. And it's interesting to note that we are not called B'nai Avraham, we are not called B'nai Yitzchak, but Yaakov's name was changed to Yisrael, and we are all referred to as B'nai Yisrael. It was Yaakov who fathered the nation with the 12 tribes, not an Avraham and not a Yitzchak. Right? Also interesting that Avraham had a Yishmael and Yitzchak had an Esav. Right? And it was Yaakov who we say was mitato shleima. His bed was complete, that all of his sons, all 12 tribes, were worthy. It can be compared to a garment dyed with many colors and blended in such a way that give rise to beauty and decoration. Within man, it is equated with the attribute of compassion, rachamim, whereas chesed would give even to a person to compassion is not at all appropriate. Right? If someone is begging you to have compassion on him and to give him some money, and the person is going to use that to buy drugs or the like, that would be compassion which is inappropriate. Right? But the person is begging, the person is crying. But that is a time where compassion is not at all appropriate. Tiferet seeks to pity a person to compassion is appropriate, and then to extend benevolence to him as well, regardless of worthiness. Right? When it's appropriate, then to give even more and more. Tiferet is also equated with truth, emet, in the sense that both chesed and gevura agree to its flow. There are a couple of points you wanted to make or questions you wanted to have.
No.
Janet, you had something before?
Well, it kind of explains it here, but I thought that for Yitzhak, that balance point was Netzach. You know, that...
No.
Is that, excuse me, is that why we're called B'nai Israel? Because of both together? I think you said it, but I want to be sure.
Yaakov was the combination of those two.
So there's a certain completion, a shleim.
Correct. Shleimus, correct.
Because
correct.
Right, he had all. He had the,
right. You know, it's also interesting. I'm just thinking out loud. Right. Yisrael is called Yisrael Kisarita because you have striven, you have struggled.
Yes.
Right. Im Elokim v'Adam, with the divine and with the earthly. Right. It is really that struggle of how do we take these two disparate drives and combine them into a way that there is this balanced synthesis of the two, which, as I said over here, that both chesed and gevura agree to its flow. Right? There is a certain degree of that struggle. It's not all this, it's not all that. So then once it's not all this or all that, then there is that challenge of how to integrate.
Is that also the struggle of the Jewish people? Somehow Jewish people seem to be a history of struggling. Even though we succeed, somehow you're saying that we have these two forces, and they come together, but they make us different.
Yeah.
I'm not following how the emet parallels that.
Emet would be the truth, meaning the proper way of combining those two forces of chesed and
rather
gevura.
Than strict truth.
Right.
Okay, I was confused.
Too often in this modern society, we don't see these things being properly modulated.
Yeah.
You referred to it before, but people go off to one side to the exclusion of
there's the far this and the far that we often have to contend with. Yeah. The next three sfirot, second to last paragraph on this page, are Netzach, Hod, and Yesod. These three are extensions of Chesed, Gevura, Tiferet. Netzach is an extension of Chesed. Hod is an extension of Gevura. And Yesod is the extension of Tiferet. The word Netzach comes from the word Minatseach, which means to conquer or to overcome. Netzach therefore denotes the idea of dominance. By giving in an unlimited way, one is overwhelming the other. And in this respect, it is an extension of chesed. Hod is just the opposite. I'm sorry, the third one, everyone's with me. Yeah, I have a different set on mine.
Were you talking about Yesod?
No, I'm sorry. We're starting now the fourth paragraph on your page. I have a different set on my page, on my notes here. Okay, so again, the fourth paragraph on the bottom. Let's go again. The next three spheres are Netzach, Hod, and Yesod. These three are extensions of Chesed, Gvura, Tiferet. Each one, Netzach, an extension of Chesed, Hod of Gvura, and Yesod of Tiferet. The word netzach comes from menatseach, conquering. Netzach therefore denotes the idea of dominance. By giving in an unlimited way, one is overwhelming the other. And in this respect, it is an extension of chesed, but it is an extension of the chesed of unbridled chesed. Right? If someone's giving you too much, what do you start to do? You draw back, you recoil.
Overwhelmed.
Or you say,
Right?
thank you very much, I have no more space.
Yeah, no more space.
Can we donate it to
no more
elsewhere?
head space, no more physical space, or no more space of self. Not just space in my house, but there's no, I have no more, I don't have a sense of self-dignity if you're giving me everything. I've mentioned a number of times, there was a student of mine who at a point was doing incredibly well financially. And he was incredibly generous and kind. And when people would want to respond with a gift back to him, which he didn't need, he would say, no, it's fine, it's no need. And I explained to him that that's not a kindness. Right? A kindness is to allow a person to reciprocate and feel that they've also given something. And thereby they retain their sense of self and they retain their self of dignity. Sometimes accepting is an act of giving. In that it's important for you to take from some, it's important for them to be able to give. So again, netzach becomes dominance. If I'm giving in an unlimited way and I'm overwhelming the other, this is an extension of chesed, but I'm not leaving any room for the other person. Hod is just the opposite. And again, in that schematic picture, that's on the other side. Being an extension of gevura, it denotes restraint to the point of submission. I could be so restrained that I just become, pure vanilla, pure white bread. I mean, there's nothing to me. Hod stems from the word hoda'ah, which means to thank, to admit, or to submit. Right? I'm moda, I admit, yes, I'm constantly submitting. So, right, one is dominating, the netzach is dominating the other. The hod is the flip side of that. The complete domination could lead to complete submission of sorts. Total dominance over another is a netzach relationship, while total submission is a hod relationship. Yesod, again, either side and then in the middle. Yesod balances the two, facilitates communication, and is therefore, Yesod means foundation, and is therefore the foundation of the world. In summary, chesed denotes unlimited giving, gevura parallels unlimited restraint, tiferet, harmonious blend, netzach and hod adapt the influence for transmission. In other words, the top three that we haven't discussed, that we don't go into, the Chabad, the Chachma, Bina, and Dat, that is in the mind. And then the next three, right, the Chagat, the Chesed, Gevurah, Tiferet, is the putting it, is the intent, preparing it for action, and then there's the actual action. So that chesed, that unbridled chesed, if it's given in an unbridled way, that is netzach, menatseach, that's overwhelming. That gevura, if it's put into play, then it is this complete submission. And the yesod is how it transmits properly. So we have the two that join together, chesed, gevura, tiferet, netzach, hod, yesod. And then what we need to have is Once we have that, we need to have that as a transmission now to the next level, which is another level of Sefirot as it works its way down. So Malchut is always going to be connecting one level to the next level. The 10th Sefirah is called Malchut. Essentially, Malchut is the receiver or recipient of influence from the higher Sefirot, which then gets passed down to the next ones. Yes?
Are there individuals who represent Netzach, Hod, and Yesod?
Yes, actually by our Ushpizen, right? We have our seven guests by Simchas Torah. We also go through the 7 shepherds. Yes.
Moshe
Yes.
being Netzach, Aaron being Hod, and Yesod being Joseph.
Right, and David being Malchut. Yeah. Okay.
And for
So it's
Hachman,
Moshe, Aaron, Yosef, and then David. Yeah.
for Hachma and Bina, what do they represent?
Those are the higher echelons.
But if we're supposed to transmit, we have to know what
Well,
we're kind of targeting, right?
we're transmitting the 7. That's what our Sefirah is working on. Sefirah Omer.
But that's to this.
It's
If
7
we want to
weeks.
go the opposite way to Hashem, don't we have to go back up?
We need to go with what we can go with. Yeah.
That's not revealed yet.
The elevator doesn't go to that level.
The word Lamanaseh
Spiritual.
appears in Tehillim.
Yeah.
How
But
is
if-
it used there?
So it's only one way?
The orchestrator. Yeah.
The transmission's only one way?
I don't know what that means.
I mean, you're saying,
Yeah.
I'm even more,
Yeah.
sorry, I don't mean to
Yeah.
be rude.
You know, what we need to try to work with is that which is somewhat tangible.
Right?
And
Well,
then with
and
that-
what do the
and
sages
with that,
say that
there-
Chachma is?
Yeah.
I don't know.
I cannot give a good, clear explanation.
Okay.
There's Aaron.
So
Aaron
we
and Moshe.
only work on these and then we
Who's Netzach?
approach Malchut.
Moshe.
Moshe.
Yes,
Thank
I always thought that was the highest one.
it is, and it isn't. Meaning, if we have 10 and then 10 and then 10, 10, so Malchut is the lowest of this one, but it's above the next one.
Okay.
Yeah. Right. Think of it like a chain, right? Right. So the lowest part of this chain,
Uh-huh.
right, becomes the highest part of the link beneath it,
Yes.
right, and so on. Right. Each link, its lowest part is the highest part of that above it. The Baal HaTanya, right? Source number 5. Ach kedei lahagia lema'ala umadrega zo. Right? In order to reach these levels, or this high level, tzarich lispor sfirat ha'omer. We must count the counting of the Omer. V'husha ha'katuv omer, the pasuk says, tisperu chamishim yom. Count those 50 days. Liot bechinat hitbonenut, bigdulat ein sof. Right? That we contemplate the greatness of ein sof, translated here as the infinite one. Ein Sof means, no end, infinite, that's good. Baruch Hu. Hein Memtet Bechinot. These are the 49 aspects which are alluded to in Merumazim B'Pasuk L'cha Hashem HaGedula that we had before. Sheheim Zayin Midot Elyonot. These are these 7 Midot. V'chol Echad Kolel Mizayin Hari Memtet. And if each one of these 7 has its 7 components, that's how we get to our total of 49. V'shar ha'chamishim, and the 50th gate, hu shar elyon, that's the highest gate, ha'kolel kol ha'bechinot, shebeshar ha'hu kululim, kol ha'memtet bechinot, v'ayu la'achadim ba'achdut echad. Each one of them in turn is made up of 7, totaling 49. The 50th is the upper gate, includes all the aspects, all that which contained in the 49, which is achadim ba'achdut echad, which are all forged then, united into a single unity. Now, in this Sidur, what Stephen mentioned before, On page 284, we had this Ribono Shel Olam prayer. So I'll read in English. Master of the universe, you've commanded us through Moses, your servant, to count the Omer count in order to cleanse us from our incrustations of evil and from our tum'ah, our impurities. As you've written on your Torah, you're to count from the Mar of the first day, from the day you brought the Omer offering, that the Tuvat Omer, 7 complete weeks, until the end of the 7th week, you're counting 50 days, so that the souls of your people Israel be cleansed of their impurities. Therefore may it be your will, Hashem our God, God of our forefathers. Then the merit of the Omer count that I've counted today, may they be corrected, whatever blemish I might have caused in the Sefirah of Chesed Shebegvura, Tiferet Shebahod. Each day we would insert the appropriate one. May I be cleansed and sanctified with the holiness of above, and through this may abundant bounty flow in all the worlds. And may it correct our lives, spirits, and souls from all impurity and blemish. May it cleanse us and sanctify us. B'kedushatcha ha'elyonah, with your upper exalted holiness. Amen. Selah. So that is actually a tefillah, a prayer that is said at the end of the Sefirah.